There's been this frustrating thing for the over dozen years that I've been involved in libertarianism, specifically voluntarism. And it continues to bug me that there's so much headbutting and so much crankiness, as Karl Hess would call it, between various well-intentioned folks. And I found myself in the camp for many, many, many years of an absolutist side of libertarianism. Just saying, well, let's treat social science, moral philosophy, as though it's able to be solved with mathematical formulas to absolute preciseness. And for those of you who saw my recent Substack about the different roles within the libertarian movement, I gave the example of a CPA who came out with an exact number of 37,362 and 21 cents. And then it just being rounded up by the board of directors to say, okay, yeah, it's roughly 40 grand. And so then the board of directors moves forward and makes decisions based on this global, it's close. And meanwhile, the CPAs, no, but the exact number is this. And the board of directors, yep, we agree, we got it. That's the perfect answer. We're just kind of using this for ease of moving forward. No, this is the exact number. Yeah, we get it. And I'm afraid I've been in the accountant's camp of just harping on, well, no, this is the one and true, only absolute truth, and I can nail it down with my logic, my reason. We can do all the math, the social science math. We can use the study of philosophy, the academic study, and we can break this down to be absolute truth. And until you can beat that academically, you're barking up the wrong tree. What we are interested in are the minute details, the perfection of the system. That's very different thinking than the person who goes, you know what? I don't know. I work a lot and I've got a wife and kids and a house and a bunch of friends, and some of them are status, some of them aren't. And yeah, everybody's flawed. And I'm just, I've got another 30, 40, 50, 60 years left on this spinning rock, and I'm just going to enjoy it and try to make it a better place where I can. I'm going to be a stoic about it. If I don't think there's a good chance that a particular thing I'm doing is going to make things better, then I'm not going to waste my time on it. I'll do what I can, but overall, I'm just going to be good and make the world as good as I can for the people around me. The person with that attitude, I'm really having more and more trouble finding quarrel with them. I think that might be not that horrible of a perspective. Now, mind you, when I'm corrected, no, the absolute one and only true truth, correct mathematical equation, and the correct answer is exactly this, I agree. I'm not smart enough to do that math. I agree that your answer is probably correct. However, I'm just trying to have a good day tomorrow, and do you want me? Okay, I won't vote. Not really interested in reading a bunch of books. Of course, I'm not talking about myself here, but the average person. But yeah, okay, I won't vote. That's a good point. Okay, I'm just going to move on now. Is that person that bad? I don't know. Coming up are a couple clips by Karl Hess and one by Larken Rose, kind of going back and forth, and be interesting to see what you think about this. And am I looking at the whole thing wrong? Do I have a wrong stance from both the board of directors standpoint and the specialist standpoint? Be interested to hear. Enjoy these clips from some folks who have been in the movement for a long time. Karl Hess is no longer alive. Larken is, very much so, and awesome. But it's interesting to listen to some of the OGs and see what they have to say.
Some of this I should have mentioned. Something about crankiness in the community, or being ill-tempered, ideological, and, a proper libertarian, where you're always bringing up the question of everything being wrong in the community because it does not adhere to Austrian school economics and so forth, and abusing your neighbors because they work for the military or do something like that. This is really dumb. And it should have been evident after seeing what happened to the left in this country, when there was a left in this country, It was the only country that ever developed a left-wing movement which had as its only constituency the upper middle class. There's just some genius involved there. But the reasons, and I was there, I saw it and learned from it. One of the reasons is the left in this country has always chosen as its foremost target working people. They're said to be greedy, they drive Winnebagos, and they bowl. And therefore are not worthy of the high thoughts of all of these leftist ninnies. The same thing happens with libertarians. You know, my God, you don't know who Ludwig von Mises is? You're a liberal, you vote Democratic, you belong to a trade union, out. Can't speak to you. That's really wrong. Your neighbors, even though they may have disgusting habits, are still your neighbors. And it seems to me that it is your fate in life, being enlightened, to be patient with them. Brecht had a line, I forget, it might have been in Mother Courage, where he said, "We who would change the world could not to our own selves be kind." That's a terrible thing. Whenever I see libertarians squabbling over how many Austrians can dance on the head of a pin and pronouncing anathema on each other, I'd love to have the anathema concession in the Libertarian Party. You sell tons of it. That's so silly. What libertarian could possibly be so bad as to call forth all of this invective? I mean, they're roughly in the same world that you live in, headed in roughly the same direction. So a little heresy here and a little heresy there. My God, if you can't put up with that from your best friends, what sort of a neighbor are you going to be? Not a terribly good one.
Lots of people, including Republicans, and because I grew up a constitutionalist, Republican-leaning statist, lots of them did an outstanding job of bashing collectivist garbage and welfare garbage and wasteful spending and blah, blah, all these things they're doing wrong, and they were all authoritarians. If a libertarian is out there going, we think this this is wasteful, and this is horrible, and this law is unjust, and there shouldn't be the war on drugs, and blah, 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 and they don't get around to saying, by the way, nobody has the right to rule you, their message is worthless, because by not saying that in almost every frickin' sentence, they're reinforcing the notion that, it's horrible that our slave masters whip us so hard. I mean, of course we need slave masters. Of course they have to whip us some, but I mean, this is just unreasonable. That is the implied message in the speech of almost every single libertarian I've ever seen run for office, because they don't dare to actually harp on the principles because they know they won't get elected. So they play the game and they get political, and it's just gross and ugly to watch. To complain that the slave master whips us too hard is to miss the whole freaking point. There shouldn't be slave masters. And if any libertarian gives any speech and you can't tell that he believes that government is 100% illegitimate start to finish, then the message he is spreading is completely counterproductive.
My feeling is that no activity by a libertarian that I can think of is harmful to me, and that every activity by every libertarian in any crazy direction they go is probably in the long term helpful to me.
Voting is way worse than doing nothing, because voting says, I'm going to partake in this ritual, I'm going to play this game, and I understand and accept and project to the world that whoever wins this game has the right, the moral right, to violently dominate me and 300 million other people I don't even know.
I'm supposed to talk about practical tools, and that, it seems to me, is the first practical tool, although it's sort of wispy one, and that is tolerance and trust. I'm amazed that there are people in the world who have so much excess time and energy that they can spend time fighting their friends rather than their enemies. But everyone has to have a hobby, I suppose. I subscribe wholly to the Leonard Liggio theory of friendship. Leonard told me a long time ago that his only gauge of the potential friendliness of a person was whether or not that person would call the police. Or any non-aggressive action. That seemed rather reasonable to me. I've long since despaired of changing the world, having had enough trouble changing me. And I know, and I look around at all of you, and I know that there isn't a single one of you has the correct line on anything. And you're well aware of the fact that I don't. And yet, for some strange reason, we're all here together. And the bloodletting is usually philosophical rather than real. And I think you should never let a person's crazy ideologies interfere with your friendships, because ideologies are, after all, an explanation of the way people act at their very best. You should keep track mainly of how they act. If they won't call the police, then that's a good step forward. If they have some variant opinion, I think you can probably learn to live with it. I live in a neighborhood in West Virginia where people's opinions are absolutely incredibly, they're horrifying, absolutely horrifying. But every now and then when I don't show up at the right place at the right time for a long period, people will drive down into our little valley and ask if there's anything wrong. And I rather appreciate that. I remember that one of the major assholes of history were all the people associated with Adolf Hitler, and particularly a street brawler named, I believe, Ernst Röhm, who bled to death once on a street by refusing the services of a Jewish doctor. Now that's carrying ideology to a rather dangerous point. And I would hope that it would not be true that anybody in this room would bleed to death because they were refusing the services of a minarchist or something of that sort. There's no step toward liberty, it seems to me, that is so slight that it shouldn't be wildly applauded. I listened yesterday to part of a discussion in which people seemed to be angry at a local official, a libertarian who won a local office, because he wasn't perfect. Well, it's very difficult to be perfect as an anti-statist in a state system. And the person who's able to do anything is doing something, which is a tad better than doing nothing. So I think it would be very nice for us to, one, celebrate small victories. That's another sort of psychological tool. Celebrate small victories, because you're not likely to be able to celebrate many very big ones. I mean, none of you are going to live long enough to see a perfect or a perfected world. But every one of you will live long enough to see a perfected you. It occurs to me, as your major project is perfecting you, not the universe. You have to do something first there. Now, in your process, as in my process, you will do things that will offend most of your friends, probably. But they can still remain your friends. Well, anyway, so much for the sermon. But I really mean that. I know some people, I'm sure, in here who have the most incredibly bad opinions on things, but there's not a person I feel in this room that I wouldn't welcome if they were fleeing from authority in our little valley in West Virginia and wouldn't want to protect and love. I can't say that of very many FBI agents.
All right. Well, hopefully this is all stuff that'll just bounce around in your brain like it is mine and has been for years. And let's keep talking and being civil and friendly and have fun and chit chat back and forth. And if we disagree, it doesn't mean we have to quit being friends. And yeah, let's move forward and do what we can to spread liberty.